Welcome to our deep dive into ancient Hebrew harvest festivals.
Yeah.
We'll be exploring Leviticus chapter 23 from the King James Bible.
Okay.
And you might be surprised at just how relevant these ancient practices still are today.
Oh, I'm sure.
So, expert speaker, this chapter lays out almost a whole calendar of celebrations, like a rhythm to the year.
Uh-huh.
What strikes you as the most significant aspect of this?
Well, it's amazing how intertwined religion and agriculture were
Right.
back then. These festivals weren't just about celebrating a good harvest.
Right.
They were about recognizing God's role in it
Right.
and ensuring future abundance.
So it wasn't just about enjoying the fruits of their labor.
Yay.
It was about acknowledging where those fruits came from in the first place.
Exactly.
Oh.
And that really comes through
Right.
in the specific rituals.
Huh.
Take the offering of first fruits, for example.
Right.
They couldn't even eat any of the new harvest until this offering was made.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Talk about priority.
Yeah. It makes you think about how we express gratitude today.
Yeah.
Do we take the time to appreciate the good things in our lives
Yeah.
before we just dive in?
That's a really great point.
Yeah.
Imagine bringing the very first sheaf of the newly harvested crop to the priest,
Right.
who would then wave it before God.
Right.
I mean, it's a powerful image, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
I can almost picture it.
Uh-huh.
It's like they were saying, this is yours first
Right.
before it's ours.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And then 50 days after Passover,
Right.
there's the Feast of Weeks, also known as Pentecost.
Okay.
This one was all about celebrating the wheat harvest
Right.
and offering 2 loaves of leavened bread to God.
Leavened bread.
Yes.
Now that's interesting.
Right.
We were just talking about the Feast of Unleavened
Right.
Bread
Right.
earlier.
Yeah.
What's the difference here? Does it mean something different?
That's a really sharp observation.
Okay.
The use of leavened bread here.
Compared to the unleavened bread during Passover, it's really fascinating.
Okay.
It might symbolize the completion of the harvest cycle, the full bounty of God's blessings.
So it's like moving from the initial offering of those first fruits
Right.
to the abundance of the full harvest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it also might hint at a deeper spiritual meaning,
Okay.
like the transformation that comes with gratitude and faith.
Okay, so we've got these joyful celebrations of Passover
Right.
and the Feast of Weeks.
Uh-huh.
But then the mood seems to shift a bit as we move into the Feast of Trumpets,
Yeah.
the Day of Atonement, and the Feast of Tabernacles.
Right.
These feel a bit more solemn.
You're right.
Yeah.
There's definitely a shift toward introspection and spiritual renewal.
Okay.
The Feast of Trumpets was a day of rest,
Right.
offering sacrifices,
Yeah.
a time to reflect
Mm-hmm.
and gather before God.
Okay, and then there's the Day of Atonement.
Yes.
Sounds pretty intense. A day dedicated to repentance and seeking forgiveness for sins.
It was taken very seriously.
Wow.
Leviticus chapter 23 even states that anyone who didn't participate was to be cut off from the community.
Okay.
It really highlights the importance they placed on acknowledging wrongdoing
Okay.
and seeking reconciliation.
Wow, that's a powerful statement.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, what are our modern day equivalents of atonement?
Right.
How do we confront our shortcomings and make amends?
That's a great question to consider.
Yeah.
Do we have rituals or practices
Yeah.
that help us acknowledge our mistakes and seek forgiveness,
Right.
both from ourselves and others?
And then we come to the Feast of Tabernacles,
Yes.
which seems really unique.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
During this week-long celebration,
Right.
people would build and live in temporary shelters
Right.
made from branches and leaves,
Right.
remembering their ancestors' journey through the wilderness
Right.
and thanking God for protection and provision.
So it's a festival of remembrance.
Gratitude,
Yeah.
and also a physical connection to their history.
Right.
Instead of just telling the stories,
Yeah.
they were living them.
Precisely. By dwelling in these temporary shelters, they were enacting the experience of their ancestors,
Yeah.
fostering a deeper understanding and appreciation
Right.
for their heritage.
Yeah.
It must have been quite an experience.
It makes you think about how we connect with our own past.
Right.
Do we have practices
Yeah.
that help us remember where we come from
Yeah.
and appreciate the sacrifices that were made for us?
It's something to consider,
Yeah.
especially in today's fast-paced world where we're often looking ahead
Right.
and forgetting to look back.
It's also interesting that these festivals weren't just about personal piety.
Right.
Remember that detail in Leviticus about leaving the corners of the field unharvested
Yeah.
for the poor and strangers?
Right, the gleaning laws.
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful example of social responsibility
woven into their religious practices.
It's like their gratitude was connected to a sense of obligation to help those in need.
Yes.
It wasn't enough to just be thankful themselves.
Right.
They had to share that abundance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It reminds us that true gratitude should extend beyond ourselves.
Right.
How do we ensure that everyone has access to the necessities of life,
Right.
even those who are less fortunate?
It's a powerful message that resonates even today,
It certainly does.
especially during the holiday season.
Yeah.
We've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah.
From joyous celebrations to solemn reflection.
Right.
And it's clear that these ancient festivals had a profound impact on the lives of the ancient Israelites.
Yes.
What do you think, expert speaker? Are there any other key insights that might resonate with our listeners today?
Well, one thing that really stands out to me
Yeah.
is the power of community woven throughout these festivals.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
They weren't just
Yeah.
individual observances.
Yeah.
They were occasions for everyone to come together.
The shared meals,
Right.
the rituals, even just the act of being in the same physical space, it all points to a strong sense of unity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's not just about people who share the same beliefs.
Right.
Remember those gleaning laws?
Oh, yeah.
They explicitly included provisions for the poor and to the stranger, as Leviticus puts it.
It's like they had this built-in system of social safety and compassion
Right.
right there in their religious practices.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It challenges us to think beyond our immediate circles, even today.
Right.
How inclusive are our own communities?
Yeah.
Do we extend generosity to those who are different from us?
Right.
Or those who might be struggling?
Those are some tough questions.
They are.
But important ones.
Yes.
Especially as we think about how to create a more just and compassionate society.
Absolutely.
It makes you wonder, what are the modern-day equivalents of those gleaning laws? How can we ensure everyone has a chance to thrive, not just survive?
That's a crucial point to ponder.
Yeah.
Now, shifting gears a bit,
Okay.
another aspect that intrigues me
Yeah.
is the deep connection to nature embedded in these festivals.
Right.
Yeah.
These weren't just abstract religious observances.
No.
They were intimately tied to the agricultural year and the rhythms of the natural world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Think about the Feast of Unleavened Bread coinciding with the barley harvest and the Feast of Weeks marking the wheat harvest.
Right.
It wasn't just thanking God for a general bounty.
Right.
It was about celebrating the specific gifts of each season.
It makes you think about how disconnected we can be from nature today.
Yeah.
We spend so much time indoors focused on our screens
Right.
that we forget to appreciate the cycles of planting growth and harvest that sustain us.
It's true.
Right.
These festivals remind us to slow down,
Yeah.
observe the world around us,
Uh-huh.
and be in awe of the natural processes that provide for us.
Speaking of slowing down,
Yes.
another thing that strikes me about these festivals
Yeah.
is their intentionality. They weren't just haphazard celebrations.
Right.
They were carefully structured
Yeah.
and filled with symbolism.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Each ritual,
Right.
each offering,
Uh-huh.
each element of the celebration had a specific purpose.
Right.
It's about being mindful and deliberate,
Right.
both in our celebrations and in our everyday lives.
It makes you think about how we approach our own lives, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Are we living with intention,
Uh-huh.
making conscious choices that align with our values?
Right.
Or are we just letting things happen to us?
It's a powerful question to ask ourselves.
Yeah.
These festivals encourage us to be active participants
Right.
in shaping our own lives
Right.
and the world around us.
We've explored a lot of ground here.
We have.
From the specifics of each festival to the broader themes of gratitude, community social responsibility, connection to nature, and intentionality.
Absolutely.
Expert speaker, as we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
But,
are there any other thoughts that you feel are particularly relevant for today's listener?
well, it's amazing how much wisdom we can glean from these ancient practices.
know.
They might seem distant at first,
Yeah.
but the more we dig into them,
Right.
the more relevant they feel.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into these harvest festivals,
Okay.
what are some key takeaways our listeners can bring back to their own lives?
Well, I think one of the most powerful lessons is the importance of cultivating gratitude.
Oh, yeah.
These festivals were all about expressing thanks for the blessings of the harvest,
Uh-huh.
recognizing that those gifts ultimately came from something larger than themselves.
It's so easy to get caught up in the hustle and bustle of everyday life that we forget to pause and appreciate what we have.
You're right. But taking the time to cultivate gratitude can really shift our perspective.
Yeah.
It helps us focus on what we have rather than what we lack.
Right.
And it can open our hearts to generosity and compassion towards others.
And speaking of generosity, that practice of leaving the corners of the fields unharvested is a beautiful reminder that our abundance should be shared with those in need.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's social responsibility woven right into their religious framework.
Right.
It challenges us to think about how we can use our resources and privilege to create a more just and equitable world.
And we can't forget the importance of community that was so central to these festivals. They weren't just individual observances.
No, they weren't.
They were opportunities for people to come together, to celebrate, to share meals, and to strengthen their bonds.
That sense of belonging is so vital in our increasingly individualistic society. It's easy to feel isolated and disconnected. But humans are social creatures. We thrive on connection. These festivals remind us to nurture our relationships and build strong, supportive communities.
And finally, I think there's a powerful message here about our relationship with nature.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
These festivals were so deeply rooted in the agricultural cycle. They reminded people of their dependence on the land and the rhythms of the natural world.
That's a crucial point.
Yeah.
In today's world, it's easy to lose sight of that connection.
Yeah.
We spend so much time indoors, glued to our devices. But these ancient festivals remind us to get outside, appreciate the beauty of nature, and remember that we are part of something much larger than ourselves.
So even though we might not be celebrating these specific festivals today, their underlying principles still resonate.
Gratitude, generosity, connection to nature, and intentionality. These are values that can enrich our lives and help us create a more meaningful world for ourselves and others.
Expert speaker, thank you for guiding us through this fascinating deep dive.
You're welcome.
It's been an incredible journey through time and tradition.
My pleasure.
And to our listeners, we hope this exploration has sparked some new ideas. And perhaps inspired you to find ways to incorporate these ancient principles into your own modern lives. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.